I'm going to start a little bit slowly here because I know there's still some people trying to log on. This is our fuels tax website, and on our home screen you'll see now that we have our link to our live fuels tax system. If you haven't yet signed up for access for the live system, you can do so here. Also, on the left side in the navigation, we have information on online filing. If you click on the online filing link, it'll send you some information on tutorials. You can see about getting started and some of the different options you have. And then in the training materials, there's a tutorials page. We have information on your initial logon and getting started.
Could you tell me where that is again?
And reporting.
I'm sorry.
On our website, it's fuelstax.oregon.gov. And then on the left bar, you'll see the link to online filing. So over on the left in the navigation bar, there's online filing. And then you can go to the tutorials section in the training materials. We have some Word documents here that include screen prints, and then as soon as we get our videos translated to a web-friendly program, we'll have those out here too. Our fuels tax test system is at https://zmsa.odot.state.or.us, and we're going to log on here today to talk about seller reporting. If you have a seller...
Sorry, could you give me that address again? I still cannot get your screen up, so I'm going to have to log in manually.
Okay. You've tried to join me and it's not coming up?
I've got circling green dots and have for the last 14 minutes.
Okay. Did you close and try again?
I've closed it and logged in 4 different times.
Oh, wow. Okay, because we're supposed to be able to have this many people. Yeah. The website is https://zmsa.odot.state.or.us.
.odot.state.or.us.
Yes. This would have been the link that you would have gotten when you get your temporary web logon for our practice sessions.
Okay. Well, let me try to find it.
Get this first one.
If you requested a webinar logon, you should have a username that starts with web. If you attended one of our earlier seminars, you may have a different username, but you can use any of them that you have active. Log on with your username and password, and then click Sign In. This will bring you to your home screen or the dashboard. And what we're going to do today, I'm going to really quickly go over the seller license application so I can get that done, and then we'll go through seller reporting. When you log on to the live system, you'll already have your seller license available, but in the test system with your test company that we set up for practice, you'll need to apply for a license if you want to practice in the test system. So to apply for a license, you go to Account, Registration Status, and you click on Add New Record. In the second drop-down box, select Use Fuel Seller License, and click Insert. That will bring up the application available for the Use Fuel Seller License. To enter supporting details on your location, you click on the line and then select Enter Supporting Details.
I'm sorry, where is that line, where is it that you click supporting details?
If you click on the line, when you go to account registration, registration status, once you add your license, you can click on the line for that license, and it'll have a pop-up window saying enter supporting details. And there are 3 schedules to choose from. The INT01 is for storage tanks at the time of purchase. So if you have fuel in storage, you'd want to enter the information there. The INT04 is the storage facilities maintained in Oregon. And the INT05 is supplier information. For our sample company, I'm just going to enter supplier information at this point. So I'm going to click on the INT05 and then add new record. And I'm just going to put in test supplier here. If you have a terminal that you purchase from, you can select the terminal from the drop-down box. To access Oregon terminals, if you type in T93, it'll bring most of the Oregon terminals up. Or if you start typing in your supplier name and they're listed as a terminal, you can also access it that way. I'm just going to put in a street address for my supplier with their city and state. And my product code is 170 for generic biodiesel, not made from used cooking oil. And I'll click insert. If I have additional suppliers, those will come. I can add those at this time also. I'm just going to add one.
Are you still on the, I'm sorry, excuse me, are you still on the account registrations page?
Yes.
This isn't going to work without being able to see your screen. You said you're going to have this recorded on your website at some time?
Yes, we're in the process of recording, and then we'll put it on the website as soon as we get it in a web-friendly format.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. After I enter the information on my schedules, I'll return to account registration, select my seller license again, and click on Generate Registration Form. I'll go into Form Manual Entries and enter the information about my license application. This is going to be a new license. My company is already set up as a corporation. Select monthly filing frequency. I'm organized in Oregon. I'm just going to say I started at the beginning of the year. The state registry number in the test system is not validated, so I'm just going to put in a select number here. And select a primary contact from the drop-down, which I'm the only one at this point, and also a reporting contact. There are 5 screens to complete. You can either go to the next screen by clicking on the bubble at the top of the screen, or by clicking the arrows at the bottom. If you click Save, it'll save your work in process, but will not generate the form yet. So we'll go on to bubble number 2. It's asking me where my records are, and my records are with my primary location. You need to have a county in with your records, so if you don't have a county listed with your primary location, you can still click this Use Physical Address if it's the same location, then unclick it and type in the county. If you're registered with the Corporation Division of the Secretary of State, you can check this box and enter the information about your registration. And enter the date you first began to sell fuel in Oregon.
Now, you said if we're already an existing seller, then when we go in, not the test system, but the main system, this will already be there, or we'll need to update all this?
In the live system, all of your seller and for license information will be there. If you need to update something, you can, but we're transferring all existing licenses to the live system.
Okay, thank you.
If you're based outside Oregon, you'll have to have a registered agent, Oregon registered agent. And if you have a managing agent, you can enter that information on the third screen.
So does a registered agent have to be in Oregon, even though our main office is in Washington and we file out of Washington?
If you are registered with the Oregon Secretary of State to do business in Oregon, you're supposed to have an Oregon registered agent. If you are an out-of-state card lock seller where you don't have a physical presence in Oregon, just customers doing business, you don't have to register with the Secretary of State. So you wouldn't have a registered agent then.
Okay.
On the fourth bubble, there's questions about your company information. So if anyone has been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor involving motor fuel, has in the past conducted business using a DBA, if you own any property in Oregon, you should have put it on the first schedule, so we'll just say yes and say see schedules. Check the box if an officer, director, member, controlling shareholder, partner, and then check the box if an owner, director, or shareholder has patrolling transport equipment. And these are the same questions you would have had on your original application. On the last bubble, it asks for any previous use field seller licenses. If the business is acquired, who did you purchase it from and when? I'm going to select myself as the contact and also the official applying for the license. So now I can save and regenerate my application. If the first bubble is dark and the other ones are gray, you shouldn't have any errors, so we can go ahead and close this. And then I'll click on my license application. If I refresh, I can go ahead and view my registration form. So this will show what your application looks like when you fill it in online. And then I can also submit my application. I'll consent to the electronic submittal and go ahead and submit. I'll get a window that tells me that my license has been submitted. And so it's now going over to our support staff for approval, our licensing section. And it should happen fairly quickly, so I'm just going to refresh here until I get my license approved. Usually I get it approved quicker, so just wait a minute here because then we can go in and file our first seller report. There we go. So it's approved as of January 2015, so I can file any reports from January 2015 to the current period. So now I can go to tax planning, which is our second tab, and go into tax sessions. Previously, I'd filed motor vehicle, fuel, and aircraft dealer license reports, so those are still showing. I'm going to change this back to open reports. Then I'm going to click Add New Record. And I'm going to start with a May 2015 report to show you manual entries and then also establish beginning readings. So I'm going to select not a refund claim. I'm going to select Used Field Seller Monthly for my drop-down period, for my drop-down type. And then enter May 1st as my beginning period. It defaults May 31st for the end period, and create the session. I can then click on the line for the Used Field Seller Monthly Report and go into Schedule Transactions. First, I'm going to demonstrate how to enter the report using manual entries. There are several schedules that you can use as a seller. The first one is a schedule of receipts, and almost everybody will use the receipt schedule if you have an operation in Oregon. We also have the 5 BLK and the 6 BLK for bulk sales, the 5 CRD and 6 CRD for card lock sales, the 5 FLT and 6 FLT for fleet fueling. And the differences between these schedules is that the 5s include the tax when you sell it to your customers. The 6s are ex-tax sales. We also have the 6 RTL for retail ex-tax sales. So when your customers come in with a motor carrier plated vehicle or a piece of equipment where they purchase ex-tax fuel, this is where you would enter that information from the invoices. We also have the 10G, which is the schedule of disbursements of B20 made with used cooking oil. And then we have 3 information schedules. The INTO1 is your ending inventory at the beginning, for each month for each tank. The INTO2 are your closing pump meter readings for each pump. And the INTO3 is the opening pump meter readings. In most months, your closing from one month will be the opening for the next month, but if you have a new pump or one that is reset, you may need to record an opening meter reading. For the test company I'm going to be doing today, I'm going to start as a retail seller with 3 locations, and I'm going to enter the closing readings for May so that I can bring them over as the opening readings for June. So I'm going to go into my inventory readings.
We'll get all those.
Click on Add New Record. My product code for this location is 170, just our regular biodiesel. I'm going to kind of pick a location at random. And we'll go with Blue Mountain Express, and my ending inventory for May was 4,191 gallons, so I'll click Insert. Now the next location I want to enter, you'll notice that if you have multiple fuel types, you can just change the product code. It'll retain the facility ID until you change it, and then you can enter the ending inventory there. I'm going to put in a different facility now. And this station also has the generic biodiesel, and I'll enter 6,772 as my ending inventory for that station.
Ending inventory.
The last station I'm going to enter has B20 made with used cooking oil.
Oh, that's going to suck.
And the ending inventory for that location is 3,358 gallons. So if you were entering your ending readings for June to carry over to July when you were starting to do your electronic filing, this is the information you would need to provide. If I was actually filing the report for this month, I would also go into my schedule of receipts. I can add new record, enter the product, the carrier. I'm just going to use a test carrier from the system. The mode will be J for truck. The origin, I'm just going to put in a terminal here. The destination is my first station. Supplier is another one of the test companies. We're just going to buy our oil here. The BOL number. And then the gallons purchased. And you would do this for each of the purchases if you're doing manual entries. Yes, there is an easier way to do it for those of you with higher volume, and we'll go through the Excel upload next. But for those with 1 or 2 retail stations where they only have a few purchases and not too many ex-tax sales, this is going to be the easiest way to complete a report. The other thing you'll need to put in is your pump meter readings. So I'm going to put in pump meter readings for one of my stations. This is my closing reading. I'll put it in for my station with B20, or excuse me, my station with biodiesel. I have to select it from the drop down. I have pump number 7 here, which is active. My 3 choices are active, new, ODOT adjustment, and retired. Most of the time you'll list pumps as active. If you have a pump replaced or repaired and you have to change the meter readings, you'll list it as new. If you're retiring a pump that has broken down, you'll enter it as retired. It'll match the pump number, an active from 1 month is retired that month. It'll take the closing from the active, the opening from the active, and add the closing from the retired, and then it'll take a new reading for the same pump number and change that to active going forward. Kind of confusing, but I can demonstrate that when we do our Excel upload too. I'll also put another pump number in here. And those would be my 2 closing readings. Because I don't want to show any tax on this, I just want to carry forward. I'm also going to enter those same numbers as opening readings. And again, you'd usually only use the opening readings if there was a problem with the number that carried over from the prior month, or if you had a reset pump. Okay. Now I have some basic information in. I've got opening readings, closing readings, inventory, and then I also entered a purchase for one of the stations to demonstrate the schedule too. Like I said, this is basically a no activity filing to establish a base to carry forward. So I'm going to go back to my tax filings, tax sessions. Select my seller monthly, go into session details. I want to include my schedules and then generate the return. Go back to my seller line and refresh until I can see that my return is pending. And then I can click on my seller line and view the tax return.
Can you go through that one more time?
Sure.
About attaching the different forms?
So from the line here, you go into session details.
Okay.
At the bottom of the form settings, there's a little checkbox that says include schedules. And then you click here at save and regenerate at the bottom, to generate your return.
So it by just clicking that, it knows what schedules you've done to include.
Right.
You don't have to go and, okay, great.
You don't have to do each one. So then when I refresh, I can click on my seller line again and click on View Tax Return, and it will complete whatever schedules I have populated. So in this case, I won't have too many schedules because I didn't put a lot of information in. It shows that I have negative fuel handled because I had ending inventories without any purchases. But I have no taxable sales because I just put in some pump meter readings to establish baselines. And so
this is what we would have to do for our very first return we do online, is do the month before to bring in those ending balances?
Yes, you can go in and enter ending tank inventory readings for your June report so that when you're ready to do July, your tank readings will come forward. And if you need help with that, feel free to give any of us on the floor a call and we can help you with it.
Okay.
So what this shows my 3 locations. This is my used fuel handled. And this shows the 3 locations that I entered. Like I said, I entered purchases for 1 location, so it doesn't show any variance there. But it shows negative fuel handled because I don't have any purchases, I just have inventory. But like I said, I did this report just to establish the ending inventory readings for these 3 locations. And then it'll also show the pump meter readings I put in with no gallons sold. And the retail summary for the 1 station that I did put pump meter readings in says that there was no activity. Since I did include a purchase, it's showing me my Schedule 2, listing my purchases. And that's the end of the report. If you just go in to put in ending pump meter readings, you'll just have these first 2 pages. You'll have the negative gallons here, and then the listing with your location numbers and your ending inventory. So I'm going to return to tax sessions. I'm going to click on my line and file my tax return.
Cool.
I'll agree to the terms of the submission and click Submit. I have tax due from another account, so I'm going to zero this out because I don't know anything from this one. And go ahead and submit the report.
Linda, sorry, I have a question. What is the cutoff time to submit the return?
The due date is the 20th for sellers, so it has to be submitted by the 20th.
Okay, but is there a specific time?
I think as long as it's received dated on the 20th of Pacific time, it will still be accepted as a 20th filing time. I'm not sure if that's midnight on the 20th or Pacific time, or if it's 6 o'clock on the 20th Pacific time. I think as long as it shows, we'll go back to our tax return. This is the confirmation screen you get, and when you go back to tax sessions, you can go to your all sessions and you'll see that my seller report was filed on the 16th. So I think as long as the file date shows up as the 20th, I'm not sure what time of day matters.
Okay, and do you know if there is a cutoff time for the payment?
The payment would be submitted with the tax report. I didn't go through the payment screens at this one because we didn't have any tax due, but that's what we're going to do next. We're going to actually file our June report now with some activities that will generate a tax due and go through the payment screens.
Okay.
I have a question on the 6 RTL form. Does it generate those?
Yes, it does.
So if you fill that out when you see your tax report, it should be showing that to be printed.
Right. It will show it to be printed if you have information there.
Okay, I did that in the testing, and it did not. That's the one page that was not printed out.
Okay, and you clicked and show all schedules?
What I'm wondering, if I did not do that, that,
Yeah, 'cause if
that
you
I'll
don't
need to
click,
do that.
if you don't click all schedules, it'll show you summary information.
Okay.
But if you click on the all schedules in the session details, it should show you everything.
All right. Thank you.
So we're going to add a new record, and we're going to file our seller report again. So we'll click Seller Monthly, and we're going to file our June report. This time we're going to do an Excel upload. So we're going to go into our June Usefeel Seller Report. Go down to the bottom of the screen where it has Data File Upload, and click there. It'll bring up the upload screen. If you already have your data file ready, you can click Select here, navigate to the file, which I conveniently put mine on my desktop, I think. There we go. Click Open, and then upload the template, or upload the file. It'll give you a note that the file, Seller Template June, has been successfully uploaded. If this is your first time using our uploads, you can click here in the gray area where it says Download Template, and then you can open the template to see the blank template. So this is what the template looks like when you first access it. The schedule codes are the same that you would file, the 2, 5, 6, the numbers we went through. And then these are the various columns that you may need to provide information for each schedule. To find out which schedule's requirements are, you can go to the second tab. And so it shows you for each schedule which information is required. Like for the 6 RTL, for example, we talked about that one. You're required to have a schedule code, a product code, an invoice date, the billed gallons, the facility, and the information on the X-Tax sale. So it'd be the explanation and the purchase date. One thing I have found convenient when I was getting used to using these was if you are comfortable with Excel, you can copy the schedule information from here, take it back to all schedules and enter the schedule codes under here and do Pay Special, Transpose, and it'll give you your schedule list. And then I went back to the requirements and started with product code and went down. And then did copy, back to all schedules, went to the product code line again, Pay Special, and Transpose. And this basically gave me a cheat sheet. So that if I was filling out a Schedule 2, I could hide these columns and just know what information I needed for Schedule 2. The R's are required, the A's are available.
Can you show us that one more time?
Okay.
Write better notes, how you did that.
They're only requiring it.
Yeah, so I went to Schedule Requirements.
Okay.
Highlighted the area. So I went basically from the product code down to the end. I did copy. And then I went back to my all schedules, and I'll do it again down here. Went here, and then I did a right click with Pay Special and hit Transpose. Okay.
Okay.
And it brought all the requirements down.
Okay.
And so, like I said, for that, it just basically helps me, as I was getting used to using these, find out which, columns I needed to fill out for which schedules.
Okay.
The requirement for submitting the Excel file, the column headers must be the same. This is the information that the system is looking for, and the schedule codes must be in the first column and must be the same. So if I was filling out my 6 RTL, I could hide the information I didn't need for the other schedules. And then I could just go through and hide some of the columns I don't need too, because if I'm just filling out this information, okay, my product code is probably going to be 170. The invoice date will be from my customer's information. The number of gallons purchased. My facility ID would be the station code number. I'll pick one here that I have on my notes. You can get it from the drop down. You can also do it. The origin city in this case is Eugene. And jurisdiction is Oregon. And then country is always USA. I'm not sure why it's required. And then the next thing I need, I go over to this side, and this is where I would put in my information, like this went into emblem 2015-4367. So that would be a UseField user emblem number. If this was going into a can or tractor, I could type in can. If this was going into a vehicle that was subject to weight mile tax, I could put in the Y plate number. And then the date purchased again. But like I said, there's a lot of columns in between that I'm not using. If I was just working on these and wanted to shortcut the, I can hide these while I'm filling out the other schedules that I need to use.
So I think it
just makes it easier to navigate across the screens that you need when you're filling out different schedules. Once you get used to it, it's pretty easy to cut and paste. And just when you're done, make sure that you unhide all of your cheat lines and delete them because they might cause an error for the upload. And it doesn't matter if the columns are hidden when you submit the file. It'll still put it up there as long as they're still there. So you don't want to delete any columns, but you can hide them when you're working on it. I'll show you the worksheet that I filled out for the upload that I just put in. And this is a completed sheet, so it has all of the information that's going to be coming up. And I tried to put a little bit of everything in here, but we'll go up to the beginning. And what I did was I listed my INTO ones first. These are my tank inventory readings. So I've got my INT screens. I have the end of the month, which is when I did my tank inventory reading, the amount of gallons I had in it, and this is my location IDs from the system, the location of the station, and that's the only information I needed for the INT schedules. Here, these are my beginning pump meter readings for my stations and my ending pump meter readings for the stations. And here they show all active except for this one that retired. Going down a little farther, these are my Schedule 2s. So these are all the receipts that I received by truck, my bill of lading numbers, the date of purchase, and the gallons purchased. I got them all from the same facility. And then this shows which location they were delivered to. I've added some card lock transactions here to show how the card lock schedules come up. Fleet fueling would look pretty much the same, so I didn't want to duplicate there. I didn't put any bulk in. I kind of focused on retail here and card lock. If I was putting in 6 RTLs, I would just type in the 6 RTL here for my schedule type. 170 is my product. I would put in an invoice date. Get my dashes in there so it knows the date. Let's see what. Let me go back to my schedule requirements for the 6 RTL to make sure I get everything in there. So the gallons purchased. See, I'll use one of my locations from up here so I know I have the right one. And this was Eugene, Oregon, US. I don't need that information. And for the explanation, I'll just say this went into a tractor. The invoice number could be your cash register receipt number, but that's optional. It's not required. There's an A there for the 6 RTL. And the purchase date was 6/10/15. So if I had additional ex-tax sales, again, if it was all the same store but different customers, different gallons, I could actually copy this. Say if I only had one store that did ex-tax sales, and I can go through and just change the date and the gallons and the reason. So if I had a bunch of them, or maybe if I was entering the day's sales, I would just have them all one day, and then one customer bought 26 gallons, another one bought 102, there's 10 into a can, and I'm running out of ideas. So we'll stop with 4. But then I could go over and have the date and the gallons in there, and then I would hide the columns that I wasn't using to make it easier, and then I can just go over here and put in the Y plate. And type in can for the last one for the 10 gallons, and my 6 RTLs would be in here also. So now I've modified my worksheet. I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'm going to go back to the system, and I'm going to upload again. Because I've made some changes, I'm going to upload the new template. And this will not duplicate the information I had put in before, it will overwrite it. So I'll only have this in once. So you'll see that the file is uploaded. It's telling me I have 7 errors. And that I have not yet generated my report. I know I have errors, so I need to go find out what they are. From the seller monthly report line, I can go into transaction validation. What this will do is bring up a screen that shows where my errors are and what the problem is. So in this case, I had 39 transactions, 69 transactions. Most of them are good, 5 of them are bad. All of my 6 RTLs are good. There's no problems there. I have a problem on my 10G. I have 2 problems on my card lock transactions and 2 problems on my receipt transactions. So then I can scroll down to the bottom of the screen, and it'll show me what each of my problems are and what schedule they're on. You can click on any of these headers to sort. So if I wanted to click on my error message, and these are all pretty much different, so there's some isolated problems here. But if I saw a bunch of errors saying that my site code was wrong, I would want to go back and fix my Excel worksheet and reload it rather than take care of each one of them individually. In this situation, my errors are kind of isolated, so I'm going to start by schedule. And we'll start with a 10G. This is the purchases of B20 maize from used cooking oil, which one of my stations has B20. And they're telling me that my purchase date didn't come over, so I must have put it in the wrong field. And since this is all of the gallons for the month on one line, I'm just going to put in June 30th. And then it also didn't bring the gallons over, which I know from my notes is 4,709. But I could also go back to my Excel worksheet. It's the right worksheet. And if I go up to my 10G, I can see here that I was supposed to put in 4709, but I had my date on the wrong column. So then I'll update. It tells me my record is updated, and also that my errors have decreased. Each error I correct takes a line out from the error column. The next one is on Schedule 2, and note when you click on these, it brings up the schedule like the manual entry screens, which is why I wanted to look at those with you a little bit first, so you can kind of see where they are and how to get to them. I'm missing a carrier. Either I had the wrong name in there, or I just forgot it for that one. I'm just going to type in carrier to find my carrier name. If I was using another carrier in the system, I could start typing the name and it would fill in. So I can update here. And that problem's resolved. My next Schedule 2 problem, I don't have my supplier in there. So again, you can either select from the drop-down box, or if you start typing, like if I start with buy oil, it'll list all of the suppliers that start with that. So I'm just going to use my old standby buy our oil. That's where I got the rest of my fuel. And click update. And now all of my receipts problems are done. The last thing I have left are 2 card lock problems. So I'm going to look here. It's telling me I'm missing a credential or description. This is for an X-Tax card lock card. So I've got my card number. I've got my customer number. So I'm going to go over to Farmer 2's account and find out what card number 10123 is issued to, and that was a tractor. Don't know why it didn't come over on my upload for my card lock system, but you know, maybe that column just got missed, or maybe I hit a delete key when I was going through something else. I'll update that. And then the last problem I have with my 6 CRD is that my purchase date is wrong. Well, I know this is actually a June purchase, so I'm thinking I must have done a typo, or maybe something came over incorrect from my system. So I'll just update that to the purchase within the month and save that. Now I've corrected all of the errors that the system said that I had from my transactions. I'm going to go back into my tax sessions. Click on my report, go into session details. I'm going to click include schedules and generate my return. So I'll close the window and then go out and refresh. And in the live system, the refresh thing happens a little more automatically. You won't have to do it this much, but I'm just using this for demonstration. I've generated my return. It's telling me that I have no critical schedule errors, but I still have errors in my return that won't let me file it. If I have warnings, I can file my return. If I have errors, I can't. So I want to go see what my problem is. I've corrected all my schedule errors. I'm going to go back into session details. And this time I'm going to go to the history log. And when you look at the history log, it tells you everything you've done on this report so far. So if I go down to the bottom It tells me I created a session, that I uploaded a file, that I did a second upload with more transactions and different critical errors. That I regenerated the return, and now I see where my errors are. The exclamation points identify your errors. Yellow exclamation points are warnings. Red ones are fatal errors that have to be corrected. So my warnings are that I have pump meter readings in my file that were already there from the prior month. When we did our May report, I put in pump meter readings as an example. Now the system is telling me, we already had these here and you gave me another number, so I'm using the new number that you gave me. That's what this error says. The other error says that I have a pump status of retired on my location 155215, and that I also have a pump status of active. When you retire a pump, the new reading has to be new. It can't be active. It'll default to active for the following month, but it has to be new for now. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go to the pump number 7 reading for the INTO2 and fix my problem. So I'll click on my schedule transactions, go to schedule INTO2, and here I have my pump 7 with both a retired and an active. So I'm going to click on the active. I'll make it new and update. And then I'll go back and regenerate my return again. I'll go back to my tax session. And now that I've refreshed my return once, I can just click here to refresh it. And now I have warnings. So if I go back into my session details and look at my history log again, I still have my 3 exclamation points, but now they're all yellow. I have the same 2 I did before, that we had a beginning pump meter reading and I entered one anyway. They're going to use a new number. But now, instead of having a fatal error with my pump number 7, I have a warning that since I didn't enter a beginning pump meter reading for this new pump, they're going to assume that the beginning was 0, which in this case it was, so I'm going to go with that. So I'll close this, and then I can look at my return. So I'm going to go in and view my tax return. Now you can see that I have total used fuel handled is $55,525. My retail station operations are $50,756 from pump meter readings. And I have non-retail operations, my taxable card lock of $1,352. So I'm going to end up owing $15,007.10 in tax. If this is a late report, it would automatically calculate the penalty and interest for me. My used fuel handled, you see my beginning inventory readings are the ending from the prior month. The purchases that are listed on my Schedule on my Schedule 2. And then the ending inventory readings that I put on my INTO1. So this calculates the used fuel handled for each of my locations. The next page includes this is my B20 station. I sold 4,756 gallons of B20 at that location. Next is the pump meter readings for my Eugene station. And then here's the pump meter readings for my Pendleton station that had the reset. So this shows the 3 pumps that didn't change, and then it shows my retired pump, which basically it recorded up to 1 million gallons, but my meter readings only have 6 digits, so I didn't want to track what the leading number should be and try to keep track of it all the time. So I just said, okay, I'm going to retire it at $1 million, start again at 0 for the rollover, and this is my ending meter reading. You do something similar if you had a pump repaired or replaced. You'd put the ending reading of the retired pump and then the beginning reading of the new pump. If it started at 0, that's fine. If it started at something else, then you'd have to put the beginning reading in manually. Next is my retail operations summary. And this shows my 3 locations. My X-Tech sales aren't here. I uploaded the same file twice. Okay. So I don't have my X-Tech sales on this one. We'll have to put them in manually. This has our B20 station with the 10G, and then our retail operations from our pump meter readings. Next, we have our receipts by product code. So this is our generic biodiesel, product 170. And you notice there are subtotals by location. So each location will have a subtotal of the purchases for that station. And then the product code B20. So this is my 1B20 delivery to my B20 station. Next are my 5 CRDs. So these are my card lock transactions that are subject to tax. And then it'll subtotal on the last page of those to show my, show the 1,300 gallons I have as taxable. Then next are my X-Tax card lock transactions. So you'll see the reason, the credential or description, the card number, and the customer name, as well as the gallons purchased. And then on the last page of those, it'll subtotal my X-Tax sales also. Then I have my Schedule 10G for my B20 sales, and I would normally have my 6 RTL here. I'm going to go back to my tax sessions and enter a couple of X-Tax sales so that we can see how those show up. I'm just going to do it through the scheduled transactions since I uploaded the same file twice apparently. So I'm going to go back to my 6 RTL, add new record. My product's 170. Let's see, I had a tractor in there. And then I had the Y plate. And I had the can. So this is how you would add transactions after you do an upload. If you found out that some were missing when you were reviewing your report. If you re-upload a file, it'll release any manual corrections that you made. So if I was to upload the file that had the retail X-Tax sales in it again, I would have to go through and correct my pump meter readings and the other corrections that we did that came up from the transaction validation. In this case, since I only had 3 transactions in my sample, as you can tell, when you do these, it retains the location and the date. So since I had them all as the same date in the file that I intended to upload, I just put them in this way. We'll go back to our tax sessions. We'll need to generate our return again because we made changes. And after you do the first generate, you can use the little recycled version icon on the right here to regenerate your return again. And we'll refresh it really quick. Now we'll go back and view the tax return. And a lot of it will look the same. We'll have the same gallons sold, same use fuel handled. We'll have fewer gallons on our retail operations. Our tax is a little bit lower because we had our ex-tax sales in there. The fuel handle won't change. The pump meter readings won't change. When we go to our retail operations summary, we'll now see the retail ex-tax sales, which are somehow in here twice. Maybe, okay, well, I'll have to check on that one. Anyway, you see the retail ex-tax sales now deducted from the gallons at this location. So that reduced our taxable sales. And then down at the bottom, we should have a 6 RTL.
So at this point, you're not requiring customer name or invoice number on the 6 RTLs?
It's not required. Most of the time, we'll be able to match it if they're a use fuel user, and since the credential is generally issued by ODOT, either the emblem number or the motor carrier plate number, we can always review the customer information at audit, or if we have questions about a customer who's, said they had an ex-tax sale, we can always request information from you then.
Okay, so like slip tanks, which you couldn't check, that would be you just asking us for the information.
Yeah, we would ask you who purchased it, yes.
All right. Thank you.
So now, like I said, now my last page is the 6 RTL. So you see my 3 ex-tax transactions there. And the subtotal. And then you have the 10G last. So once I've looked over my return and it looks okay, I'll go ahead and return to tax sessions I can go there from the upper corner of my PDF view. I can click on my report and file my tax return. We'll click Agree to the conditions of the submittal, and then Submit. It still shows I owe both of them. I'm only going to pay the seller report at this point, so I'll click Submit there, change the amount due. And it's going to ask me for my payment date. It's telling me here that my due date is the 20th. What date do I want to pay? And, well, I want to pay when it's due. So I'll click Submit here. And since I've been in the system before, it's asking me whether I want to use auto pay or one-time payment. If you don't have your account set up yet, we'll go ahead and do the one-time payment to show you account setups. It'll direct me to the U.S. Bank site.
Linda, sorry, if the due date falls on a weekend or legal holiday, does it move to the next working day as it's currently?
Yes. If the due date falls on a weekend or holiday, that becomes the next work day.
Okay, good. Thanks.
So here I have a frequency of one time. It says pay now or pay on a future date. Well, I've already told them I want to pay on a future date, but I'm going to tell them again. I want to wait till the due date. And then I can either use a saved payment method or I can add a new account. So for those who haven't been through the account payment screens, you just enter your bank routing number, and you can change the check to either from personal check, where the routing number is first, or business check, where the routing number is second. Enter a routing number and your account number. They'll ask you to re-enter your account number. And then you have a choice to save the account for future use. And I'm going to call this my use fuel account. So I keep my gasoline and diesel payments separately here. So I'll continue. And now it'll let me review the payment. I'm going to pay this amount on the date. Here's my tracking number. I'll accept the terms and conditions and confirm. Then it will give me a confirmation number. The ODOT tells you it's going to ODOT. The ST is for state tax. If you set up your file for recurring payments, you'll have an R here, and then the series of digits with the confirmation number. My payment status is scheduled. It'll come out on the 20th. And it has my bank information, so I'll go ahead and continue. And it'll take me to the payment history screen. So now you'll see that I have 2 payments pending, one for my motor vehicle fuel and one for my used fuel. If I want to change my account information to set up recurring payments, I can go into account management and into payment processing setup. I can select my payment line and then change it to either recurring for auto pay or not auto pay. I'm going to set it for auto pay. And then I can select whether I want it on the due date, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 days before the due date, or immediately on completing the return. If you set it up for the due date and you're filing a late report, it will take it immediately. So I can go ahead and update that information. If I need to update my payment information at U.S. Bank, I can do it here. And you're not required to bank with U.S. Bank, but they're the ones who process our payments for us. That's why it takes you to the U.S. Bank website. We don't actually have your account information available in our system. It's at the U.S. Bank Secure site. So here I can go to payment methods. It shows me I currently have 2 accounts. I can edit that account information, or I can add a new account, delete it. It'll show the payments I have scheduled. And my electronic payment history, which right now I don't have any because everything's still pending. And then I can update this information. I can go to my profile. So anytime I need to update information on the U.S. Bank side, I can do it from that screen. And then I'll click Exit to go back to the fuel tax system. It'll generally take you back to the home page, but you can see here that you're still logged in. So you can go ahead and go to Tax Sessions. And you'll see that our seller report is gone because now it's over in the historical files. So now we have 2 seller reports filed. We have our tracking numbers for both of them and our filed dates. When we go to our account information, our company balance still shows a balance pending because it hasn't been paid yet. The account activity, this shows all the city jurisdictions that are waiting for payment on my Motor V report. My payment history. Again, this is where we came right after we submitted the payment, so it shows that my payments are pending for both of my reports. We talked about payment processing setup, and there's also an option to make payment. So since I have a balance that hasn't been paid, I could go in and pay this way. This works well if you have a separation of duties where one person prepares the report, they get ready to submit, and then someone else goes in and makes the payment. Now if I go into System Activity on the admin screen, it actually shows that I've been doing something. The first day when we did this, we didn't have any activity here. But now I've uploaded several reports and sent them into process. But that concludes the information I had prepared for the seller webinar. Do we have any questions on completing seller reports or uploads?
So when do we can go and log in the live? We already have an account if we already have a seller license?
Yes, you can log into the live system now. It's now available. The link's available on our website. So I have that open on my other browser. So if you go to our home page, go back home here, back to the tutorials page. Let's go back to the home page. We'll look at that again. That's not where I want to go. So yes, on our news release section, you can hit the pause here, and that gives you the information about our new fuels tax system. There's a hyperlink here where go to the online filing link to access the system, and you can also get to it here through the online filing on the left side navigation bar.
Okay, so we could go ahead and set up like the bank account stuff.
Yes, you can go in here now. When you click here to access the system, you'll see it looks a lot like the one we just went through. The big difference is this says Oregon Fuels Tax System. It's the live system. Doesn't say test up here, and the bars are a different color. If you don't have access yet, you'll click here to register. And then this time you'll actually use your real company name and federal ID number, company type. So just fill this in as you did for your practice session, except you use the real information. And once the company name and ID is validated, if you're already listed as a contact for your company in our legacy fuels tax system, your approval should happen within a day or so. It kind of depends on workload, whether we get to it the same. We're trying to get to them the same day, but it doesn't always happen with workload right now. So.
And then the same thing, that information is emailed to you, so I need to get that corrected.
Right. Yeah, you have to have a correct email address here to get the information emailed to you.
Or have it not.
Linda, I have a question. I'm at the live site there, and does everybody have to go in there and put in their account information? Registration, should I say?
One person from the company needs to sign up for the initial administrator position. So at least one person from the company needs to go in and log in with the company information. And then when you do have your log on, I'll show you in the test system, if you have, one thing that's come up is like the default logins are your legal company name _admin, kind of like we did with this one. If you want an easier log on, you can go to admin and user list. You can set yourself up as a new user. And here you can select your logon name. So if I wanted to just log on as Linda, I would just type Linda instead of having to type in webdemo _admin each time. So you can add a new user and set the login and set the permissions. But yeah, in the live system, yeah, you'll have to have the company legal name and the federal ID number, and then they will email you your logon and password. You can go in and set up your account just like you did in the test system, except it'll be real.
Okay.
And then you're going to be logged in. Big long one.
Any other questions?
I do have a question about setting up the bank account. Normally when you're doing an auto pay, it's for the same amount every time. And, of course, this will vary. Do you have to do a one-time payment in order to put the correct monthly payment in?
No. If you do an auto pay, it just means it will automatically take it out of your account on the date you specify. It doesn't have, through this system, the auto pay is the balance on the report you're filing.
So it will pick up the balance on the report and do that automatically?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
We have over 1,000 transactions every month. So we're going to have to use XML, but is there can you do some of the report with XML and some of it by hand?
Yes, you can, but you would have to do the XML transactions first, because the XML would override any manual transactions that you did.
Okay, and then obviously the meters don't go, they won't be electronic, so that will have to be by hand.
They can be by
Correct.
hand, or you can code it as part of your XML upload. Do you have a lot of card lock activity? Is that, or X-Tax sales that you're planning on doing by XML, or? Because in a lot of cases, once you have your schema set up, you can add those fields to put in the pump meter readings and inventory readings, just like at the end of whatever other reports that you're doing, or even at the beginning. So it's just a matter of having the information coded when it's translated to XML.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. If we don't have any other questions, we'll go ahead and conclude. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.